So, in the trailer for the 10th generation of the mainline Pokemon games, Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves, we were introduced to two very unique Pikachu, Mr. Windychu and Miss Wavychu. I think these two characters are weirdly important and are connected to the deep Pikachu lore that resides in Pokemon, because I think, especially seeing as how we're in the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, that Miss Wavychu and Mr. Windychu represent the two special abilities that Pikachu has had throughout the series, mainly the ability to use Fly and the ability to use Surf. And I will be going over the lore significance of the two throughout this video. However, we are going to start off with Miss Wavychu because her lore is a bit deeper than her counterpart. So, in Pokemon Yellow, during the start of screen animation, you can see a surfing Pikachu, as well as a flying Pikachu, but we'll get to the flying Pikachu later. The surfing Pikachu is the important one in question because the minigame Pikachu's Beach can be activated if the player's Pikachu knows Surf. Surf is usually learned when it comes to the first generation games through the use of Pokemon Stadium. After completing some certain requirements, you can teach your Pikachu Surf. Pikachu always has a special model or sprite when using Surf, even in the overworld. This brings us to the anime, where things start to get interesting, because in episode 67 of season 1 of the Pokemon anime that premiered on October 22nd, 1998 in Japan and October 2nd, 1999 in the States, we have the surfing Pikachu episode. The important thing to point out about this episode is the Pikachu in question, named Puka. Puka, you see, has blue eyes. This trait will become very important throughout the rest of the surfing Pikachu section, because turning things back over to the mainline games, specifically the second generation when talking about Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, if you have a surfing Pikachu in your party and that surfing Pikachu is female, the overworld sprite when using Surf will be blue, while the male will be red. However, swinging back into more modern times, I do believe that the blue-eyed Pikachu Puka that we see in the anime was the inspiration for something we see in the Generation 7 games. So that would be Pokemon Sun, Pokemon Moon, Pokemon Ultra Sun, and Pokemon Ultra Moon. You see, in the 7th generation of Pokemon games, in the Alola region, Pikachu gets a different evolution than normal. Pikachu becomes Alolan Raichu. Alolan Raichu, quite interestingly, has blue eyes and is known for surfing on its tail. However, Alolan Raichu using its tail as a surfboard is actually a callback to Cantonian Raichu, because back in Pokemon Stadium, when you gave that Pikachu who knew Surf a Thunderstone and evolved into a Raichu, during said surf animation, it would surf on its tail. So yes, Alolan Raichu is actually a callback to Cantonian Raichu using Surf back in the day during the Stadium games. However, moving forward, we are in Gen 10 now with Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves. We are in a very tropical area and the water is very well emphasized. But we also have a female Pikachu named Miss Wavychu, so most likely she's the representative of Waves, and she probably has some sort of relation to surfing. The main protagonists of both games are carrying a device that most likely will be a surfboard or a hoverboard. So all this comes together, and of course, Miss Wavychu has blue eyes like Puka back in the anime. So I think that's all very interesting and well connected. However, moving on to Mr. Windychu. Like previously mentioned, I think Mr. Windychu is a representative of Pikachu learning Fly throughout the years in Pokemon. This is very evident based on how he's dressed. He's dressed in an outfit consisting of white and a very light blue, which are often colors associated with the flying type in Pokemon. Now, I will say it is quite peculiar that he has a bangle around his tail that looks like one of the cloud formations that we see later on in the Winds and Waves trailer. So that could be a deeper lore implication there when discussing the Gen 10 games. However, when we're talking about flying Pikachus, the first time that we see a flying Pikachu is in the animation for Pokemon Yellow, as previously mentioned with the Surfing Pikachu. But much like how a Surfing Pikachu is given the special item of having a surfboard in various animations, a Flying Pikachu is given balloons tied around its belly. And this can be seen too in numerous cards in the trading card game for Pokemon. However, Flying Pikachus can also be seen on the Skymark Airlines for Japan, as they have two jets, BC-1 and BC-2, that feature flying Pikachus on their wrappings. So that's pretty neat. They're going all out here with the theming. And in various games, starting with Pokemon Soul Silver and Heart Gold, one can obtain a flying Pikachu to use in the mainline games. And this flying Pikachu also appears later in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, in which the partner Pikachu can learn a move called Floaty Fall, which is a damage-dealing flying type move during Generation 7, because Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are Generation 7 games. But yes, when using this move, Pikachu gets balloons tied around its belly, and it sky falls down into the opponent, similar to the move Fly. However, this move does cause flinching. But moving on to Generation 9, which is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and technically Pokemon ZA as well, we have Terrestrialization, in which Pokemon get various hats when they terrestrialize. The flying hat is that of a bunch of balloons. However, there was a special Pikachu given out during an event. Said Pikachu was a Terra-type flying Pikachu that knew the move Fly. So it was a very special occasion in that way. And that brings us back to Gen 10, in which we have Mr. Windychew, whom I think embodies this entire history of Pikachu being able to fly via balloons. Now, again, I don't know what that bangle around his tail actually means, but seeing as how it has some association perhaps to the cloud formation that we see in the trailer, I would think he maybe is connected to the legendary Pokemon of Pokemon Winds. But with that being said, stay rosy.